All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Pearl City Neighborhood Board to order. It is 7 o'clock. And first of all, I'd like to talk about our time limit policy procedures. Anyone wishing to speak is asked to open the list of participants and click and raise their hand icon by their name, those that are in virtual right now. When recognized by the chair, address comments to the chair. Remarks should not exceed 3 minutes. Please cancel the raised hand sign after you've been speaking. Presentations must be kept under 10 minutes. You notice I've got Cooney here. He's got a time clock here to keep us on time. I ask you to please keep things to the minimum. The note that the board may take action on any agenda item as required by the state sunshine law. Specific issues not noted on the agenda cannot be voted on unless added to the agenda. Board actions such as draft resolutions and outgoing letters will be posted for public on Google Drive. Okay, so welcome everyone. Nice cool night tonight, and I hope to get through this meeting fairly quickly. I expected a lot more people tonight, so that means we're going to get through this quickly. First of all, I'd like to do is a roll call. Kekuni Agard, Rodney Awong, Charmaine Duran.
Here.
He's here. Guy Inouye.
Here.
Okay. Brendan Lee. Ian Mesta is not here. Junior Miyazano is also not here. Dan Smith. Nathan Nakaguchi. Tony Velasco.
Here.
Tony's up, and myself, Larry Bragg. Okay. So we're only missing 2 board members. All right, so starting right off, let's start with public safety reports. We got the Honolulu Fire Department. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Royce Morel. I'm currently stationed at Weil Fire Station, second platoon. So the statistics provided below represent confirmed number of incidents in the neighborhood board's geographical area for the previous month. So this would be for the month of August. Last neighborhood board meeting, there was no questions. Wrong. Great. So fires, structure fires, 0, wildland or brush fire, 6, nuisance fires, this includes rubbish fires outside of structures or car fires, 6, cooking fires, 2, activated alarms, no fires, 5. Next, we have emergencies, medical emergencies, 150, motor vehicle collision with pedestrian, 1, motor vehicle crash or collision, 3, quantum rescues, 1, ocean rescue or hazardous material incidents, 0. Fire safety tip is evacuation plan. The event of an emergency, be prepared with the evacuation plan. Create your plan with all members of your family or household. Keep in mind with those limited abilities, children, elderly, pets. Identify possible exit and escape routes. Predetermine a safe meeting place. This could be across the street, a park, or a nearby tree, someplace just safe, away from the hazardous area. Always choose the escape route that is the safest. Think about various scenarios, strategize how to use them, review and practice. Assemble emergency supply kit, for the back and forth of documents, medicines, necessary pet items. Remember to stay calm, stay informed, stay alert. For more information, visit fire.honolulu.com. Is there any questions?
Okay, board members, any questions for HFD? Tony?
Community members are interested in finding out if there's been movement of Honolulu Fire Department to assist on Maui, and if so, how that's affected readiness on Oahu.
At the moment, I do not have an answer. Get the answer.
And if you get it any earlier than that, you can email me and I can get it to board members.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions for HFD? Virtual? Seeing none? Okay, community, any questions? Seeing none? Thank you so much.
Yes, have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Honolulu Police Department. Are you online? Hey, I don't see HPD. They might come on later. They were at the last, I think, 3 meetings. Okay, moving forward into presentations. We've got a special guest today. I think he should be virtual. This is emergency management for City of Honolulu, Director Hiro Koiya. Are you on right now, sir?
Hi, Chair. This is Tony.
Yes,
Uh,
Tony.
He texted me he's running late. So
Okay, we'll bring him on. If the board doesn't have any issues, we'll bring him on later. Okay, do we have also, next presentation was going to be from Nani Barreto for the Community Wildfire Preparedness and Firewise USA program. Nani, are you online? Okay, our two main presentations here to start off our evening. I don't have those, so we'll bring them back later. Okay, I'm going to open this up for public testimony. Does anybody have any issues? Okay, please come on up, state your name. Of course, everybody knows this is our former chair.
Let's talk to Dave about the construction of dry dock 4 in the shipyard. After retiring for 42 years, I know exactly where the dry dock is going to go. There's some questions I asked NEPC about the dry dock, the size of the dry dock, depth of the dry dock, and the width of the dry dock. They haven't answered to me on that yet. Even when they do the dry dock, we're going to have a traffic problem on Kamehameha Highway, specifically at Halawa Gate. All contractor vehicles must go to the gate for security check. They're going to pile up because the construction will have a lot of people working on it in dry dock 4. Also, the equipment they're going to use for the dry dock, I understand is going to be stored at Fort Island. If and when they need the equipment, it's going to be barged over to the shipyard side. I guess it's for security reasons. The other issue I had that I sent you an email with an attachment about me suggesting that the Pro City area have a dog park. There was 2 sites I picked after doing my analysis. The first one was Blaisdell Park on the ever side, Blaisdell Park. The other location was at Waiau District Park, which is the front side of the parking lot. The reason why I picked that area on the Waiau District Park is because no team practice in that area. And I don't want the kids either do practice of the ball or the whatever goes on the street side. Thirdly, please have the board move the meeting back to the Waiau District Park. Kathy mentioned that it was difficult for her staff to have parking in this area. There's a lot of parking available if you guys move back to the Waiau District Park. I talked to the park manager, the director. She said she's open for that suggestion. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, Cruz, before you leave, any questions for Mr. Cruz Vina? Our former chair of the Pearl City Neighborhood Board. And Cruz, I totally agree with you. Those are probably the best options we have for the Pearl City area. So tonight, we're going to assign our chairs for the committees. Parks and Recreation Committee will task them to take this on.
Thank you.
And we'll work the requirements. Thank you, Cruz. Okay, any other community concerns? Okay, no other community concerns. Then we're going to move on into board business. The first item on board business is board member concerns and discussion on wildfire preparedness for Pearl City residents. I was hoping to have the presentations lead to kind of get us to start generating and thinking and talking about the wildfires. So what I'd like to do for the board is I put together some talking points presentation. And Logan, if you could bring that up, and I'll share this with you. I did my own analysis, taking a look at where the potential areas of concern that I saw. And of course, what comes really close to me is Waiau area where I live. Hillside Terrace lies right next to the driving range in Aiea. There's a very dry area out there. And so I started with that area first. So if you go into the next slide, the question is, what happens when we have a fast moving wildfire and it gets out of control? What what can we do to mitigate? So if you go to slide 3, in 1990, there was a fire on Hillside. And that fire had worked its way up the ridge. It actually caught some of the shake roofs on fire. What really saved the day was the White House Fire Station. They got down quickly. They hosed down the top of the roofs. But in the meantime, I got a call from my wife that we had embers flying into our townhome, which is on the other side of Palmanu, on the west side. So where you see that arrow is, if the fire would have started in those houses and fire department lost control, it could have just continued on through the Waiau area, townhome to townhome, to take those out. Next slide. What I want to show you, the high risk areas that I see. So for the Waiau area, where you see the yellow lines, those are the areas of concern. Those are the top of the ridges where there's homes, and below that is all dry brush. Where you see the red areas there, the little splotches that are on there, those are actually what I've seen previously for homeless encampments. Those homeless encampments I see as probably the highest risk because there's cooking that's going on there. We smell the cooking. Some of our board members that live close to there, we smell the cooking at 10, 2 o'clock in the morning, smoke coming out of there. And then, so we need to discuss this on risk mitigation because we really need those 30-foot fire breaks. The problem with Hillside Terrace is not all the homes have fire breaks. Next slide. If you take a look at this one right here, there's one home that's got the fire break. And then if you look at the other homes there, the brush goes right up to the back of the house. And we need to come up with some way to be able to set requirements. I know that land, I don't know who the landowner is for that, but we need to come up with some way that we could set requirements that we have to have those fire breaks. That's when at least we could try to mitigate it. Okay. Now move on to the next slide. This is my biggest concern, and I think everybody knows this already, is Pacific Palisades. It's so vulnerable. Where you see the yellow dash line, that's actually surrounding all of Pacific Palisades. It's built up on a high area. We've got gullies that are around that area, all dry bush. What I don't know is I don't know where all the homeless encampments are. Because if a homeless encampment had caused a fire, we don't know how they get out of hand. Of course, the other thing is, what I really need to do is address our council member because it hasn't been determined where the fire station goes. But I'll tell you, my gut feeling is we really need that fire station up there in Pacific Palisades, because if there is a brush fire that starts close to these homes, timeliness is of the essence to try to get to it, because that's what helped Waiau out back in 1990. And then, of course, the other thing is if there is an evacuation, there's one way in, one way out. With all the cars that are there, what are we going to do? So that needs to be discussed. Is there a possibility a backup emergency evacuation route could be set up? It doesn't have to be paved. It could be a dirt road, but have something. So anyway, I'm going to leave that with the board. We don't have to take action tonight. Next meeting, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get some requirements set where we make up resolutions based on community inputs, and that'll be from the committees that we assign for this. So last slide I want to show you, here's an example of Pacific Palisades, and there are no fire breaks. The brush goes right up to the back of the houses as we go all around. So board members, I think what I do is right now, since our director showed up, and sir, I'd already talked about we had set time for presentations, and I understand you're just a little late, but we're ready for you. And board members, if you have no objections, we're going to bring up our director for emergency management, city and county Honolulu, Mr. Hiro Ueda. And thank you, sir, for making time for us.
And thank you, and I apologize for being late.
No
Yeah,
problem.
and thank you so much for having me, Chair. Chair, board members, my name is Hiro Toya. I'm the director for the Department of Emergency Management for the City and County of Honolulu. So I was asked to be here tonight to talk about our emergency management system as well as some of the alert and warning mechanisms we have. And I think to your discussions that you're having about some of the concerns in this particular area about the hazards that may be present here, and what can be done to mitigate those hazards. So I'll start off talking a little bit about emergency management, what it is. So we are the Department of Emergency Management. We're one of the departments within the City and County of Honolulu, very small department. We got 16 full-time staff. And our job really isn't to be the first responders on scene, but to rather be the coordinator and convener of all the city departments, as well as working with the state departments and nonprofit organizations that work in this space. So really what we do is to work systematically to try to reduce risk, but to be prepared for response and recovery in the event that some incident takes place. So we run what's called the city's Emergency Operations Center, and that's sort of the central coordination point for the city in the event that there's a large-scale emergency happening. So now keep in mind that the city gets about 1 million 911 calls a year, and vast majority of those are resolved by the first responders on scene, and there's no real need for us to activate the Emergency Operations Center. The dispatch centers are activated, the departments are out there. First responders coordinate really well on scene together with all the other counterparts, so the police, fire, emergency services. They're out there day in and day out, responding to 1 million 911 calls a year. But a small fraction of those might result in incidents that require something that's beyond the routine coordination that first responders do. So let's say, for instance, that a large-scale emergency happens that requires a large number of people to be evacuated and require shelter. Well, that's beyond what the first responders do. So that's when we come into play and coordinate with Red Cross, Parks and Recreation, other city departments, other state departments to bring together those resources that might be available to assist the community in terms of those large-scale emergencies. So other situations where we get involved, think of emergencies that don't start with a 911 call. So think of things like a tsunami or hurricane. Those aren't generated by 911 calls, right? They're generated by either the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center or the National Weather Service or other warning entities telling us that something's happening that requires our attention. So we would activate the emergency operation in those center in those instances. And I'm actually a civil service employee, but I do take my direction from the mayor. So the mayor is the chief executive of the city and county of Honolulu, is ultimately responsible for all emergency management functions within the jurisdiction of the city and county of Honolulu. So my role is to help coordinate the city's resources on behalf of the mayor. So one of the areas that we function in, besides the coordination role, is we bring to bear and we implement the large-scale alert and warning systems that we have within the city and county. So we've heard about the sirens, and you guys probably literally hear them every month. First working day of the month, the siren system gets tested. Now this system is an all hazards alert and warning system. So what that means is that for any kind of emergency, we can use this resource to alert the public that there's something going on. But it comes with limitations. Now, these are outdoors and obviously exposed to the wonderful elements of our island, the salt in the air, and there's a lot of critters out there too. So with these electrical components, they are actually susceptible to malfunction from time to time, as well as damage, even issues like theft of the batteries is an issue. So maintenance of this is a challenge, but this is installed and maintained by the state of Hawaii. And our role with the city and county of Honolulu is to assist them in the monthly testing of this and the periodic maintenance to the extent that we can support those functions. We do. But the use of these is largely up to the counties, each of the counties in the state of Hawaii, to determine when it's appropriate to use. So in some instances, we know these are going to be used, and there's really not a whole lot of decision-making besides the timing of them. So tsunami, for instance, we know that for every tsunami incident, we're going to try to use the sirens. Not a whole lot of decision-making in it, except for the fact that we need to time it appropriately so that we're signaling the arrival of the waves. Similarly with hurricanes, when we have a hurricane approaching, and we usually get the warning 36 hours ahead of time. And what we try to do is to progressively kind of increase the urgency of the warning as the storm is approaching. And with the projected arrival of tropical storm force winds and we would activate the sirens. And what they actually really mean is to turn on the news, look at your phone, look at TV, listen to the radio, and find out what's going on. There's something happening that warrants your attention. And the reason why that's the way it is because we can have different tones on these sirens. But right now we use a single tone. It's a steady tone, just goes off, and it's a steady tone that goes off for 3 minutes. There are other tones that we could use, and one example is when the state was engaged in the ballistic missile preparedness efforts. We did actually implement a different tone for a short period of time, a tone that signals to the public there's a ballistic missile attack underway, get inside and stay inside. So we could potentially have different types of tones that we use for different hazards, but what we have to accompany with that is an extensive public education program where we let the public know, hey, this tone means this hazard, this tone means this other thing. And to have the, so we got to really balance that, right? We want to be as specific as possible in our warning messages, but we also don't want to make it so confusing. There's 10 different tones for 10 different hazards. We have to educate the entire community, including those with limited English proficiency. We also have to kind of have an outreach mechanism with the tourist community as well to make sure that the sirens mean something to this population. Another part of the siren capabilities is actually voice capability. So, Chair, you asked about this specifically. The military installations do have sirens as well that they maintain, and they have what they call the giant voice capability on these. The sirens that we have on this island and throughout the state actually do have the same voice capability, but again, it comes with limitations. Like any other outdoor audio system, the farther you get away from the speakers, the more unintelligible the message becomes. And so it's, kind of becomes a Charlie Brown teacher kind of situation where, there's something on the speaker, on the siren that's going, but can't really make out what it is. So in the end, the message ends up being turned on the news and find out what's going on. So not to say that there's no utility for this, but also there is some technical limitations in this. The way it's set up right now, the sirens actually have to be either programmed locally. So in other words, I can't, so just to back up a little bit, these siren systems are remotely controlled, activated through both cell and satellite systems. And so we can remotely activate these from the city's emergency operations center, basically anywhere with internet connection, we have that capability. The capability that I don't have is to program the audio message over the air. They have to be programmed locally into each device, or I have to sit there with a microphone on each siren to deliver the message. So there are some technical limitations, both on the transmission of the message as well as actual audio that plays from the siren system. So the sirens, we continue to reiterate that this is one part of the alert and warning system that we use. And the other parts include the emergency alert system, the EAS, that goes over TV and radio. And we can deliver specific messages on those remotely. And we have local broadcasters that rebroadcast these messages for us. And we also have the wireless emergency alert system. So I alluded to the ballistic missile alert and the siren tone associated with that earlier. But we found out through that mishap that that system works incredibly well, in which everybody got that message, right? Just about everybody got that message. So we want to deliver an emergency message. That is a very powerful tool that we have in our arsenal. So the way this works, again, for certain hazards, we know we're going to use this. So now it's perfect. But for other hazards, and let's take the fire examples, these do have to be a case-by-case evaluation. We have to get the information first from the field that there's something going on that warrants our attention. So in our emergency management system, we do have notification protocols built in for the fire department to notify us if there's an emergency that's occurring that may even, it's like just even the possibility of an evacuation of a large segment of the community that triggers notification to us. So while we want to remain humble, there's a lot to be learned from this Maui incident and a lot of areas for us to improve. We do have a robust system in which we have good notification between the first responders and our emergency management system. For them to let us know that something's going on, and if there is a need for large segments of the community to be evacuated, then we would have that discussion on what alert and warning methods are appropriate. So, sorry, I'm kind of going over time. Yeah, I have a few more minutes. Okay. What would happen is initially, if there is a fire going on, for instance, the firefighters would of course be responding, and they would assess the situation, and they would begin evaluating, okay, do any parts of the community need to be evacuated? And that immediate response in the field, the firefighters, along with police, may go into the neighborhoods, use their PA announcement system and say, hey, there's a fire going on, please evacuate now. There's a certain point in which that capability gets exceeded. We need to go larger swaths of the community. We need to use the bigger tools. So that's the discussion that we would have with the first responders in determining whether or not, for one thing, sirens are the appropriate tool in that instance, and whether or not we use the EAS or the wireless emergency alert on cell phones in order to alert and notify the community of the potential danger or the actual imminent danger that's happening. Again, the sirens are one component. We have first responders in the field. We have the emergency alert and wireless emergency alert systems going as well. So how the community can, our message has been to prepare for 14 days. And that's not really for the kind of emergencies that I was just talking about, right? The kind of emergencies where you have to evacuate immediately, you're not going to bring 14 days. But if what we're talking about with the 14 days is the fact that there's a variety of emergencies that already talked about many of them. But we have significant vulnerabilities because we live on an island in the North Pacific, and our supply chain does have vulnerabilities. And it is possible that we become isolated on this island from the outside community to a large extent for an extended period of time. We also have the possibility of communities on island being isolated. We talked about, on the one hand, there's evacuation challenges with a one-way in, one-way out situation, but there's also the possibility that you might not be able to leave the community with extensive wind damage after a hurricane, for instance, that you may be isolated within your own community on island for a prolonged period of time. So that's the reason for us to continue to promote the 14 days preparedness. And I do want to continue to reiterate that message that we all should be prepared to be able to self-sustain for 14 days. And those who can really need to, because there are segments of the population that aren't able to prepare themselves for that kind of period of time. Now, associated with that is we do want to promote everybody to have a go bag. So as a subset of your 14-day emergency kit, you want to make sure that you have all your essential supplies, the bare essentials that you might have for you and your family, that you've got to go outdoor right now to evacuate. Just grab that bag, and you have some basic things to help you on your road to recovery. So we actually did recently publish additional guidance on this, and I brought some flyers with our QR codes linked to our website with additional guidance on many of these things that I just talked about. And one thing I want to end with is our Community Emergency Response Team program, the CERT program. And I was asked to provide some stats on what the numbers of people who have been trained in this program are in the Pearl City area. So CERT is Community Emergency Response Team. And we provide this training to the community free of charge. And it actually amounts to 3 days worth of training. And we usually do this on the weekends, on Saturdays. So it's got to sacrifice 3 Saturdays, but we believe it's worthwhile training. It goes into the hazards that can impact us, and what you can do individually to prepare for those, as well as what you can do as a community to look out for each other, neighbors look out for each other. And what it is a recognition that there is, while we have very robust fire department, police department, emergency medical services, there is very finite number of resources that they have. And this concept isn't anything new, but it's quite possible that you're going to be the first responders in the event that we have a large scale emergency. So this course teaches those skills that you might need in those times that you're going to be the help before help arrives. So we've been doing this for a couple of decades now. And cumulatively, we've trained about 4,000 people on the island of Oahu. And specifically for the Pearl City area, I pulled this by zip code. So the number I got back was 73 people trained in the last 20 years in the Pearl City zip code in the CERT program. So, this is not a competition, but I do want to point out Kailua, for instance, 218. Kanoa had 231. Laie 233. So there are other communities that have been more actively engaged in this training program. That's not the only metric of success for preparedness, but that's one area that I looked at that kind of jumped out at me a little bit. So I do encourage everybody to take a look at this course, see if it's appropriate. If the board would like to request a course to be out here or to have a dedicated course for the Pearl City area, we can make that arrangement for you guys. So
Okay.
please let us know if
Director
that's
Toya,
something.
what I'd like to do right now is open it up for questions for the board, for you. And as far as looking at opportunities for CERT, I'd be happy to help host one of those events here at Mobilani. So thank you for the information just provided. I have a couple questions, but I want to open it up for board members. Board members, do you have any questions for Director Toya? What do we have?
I do.
Charmaine? What is Charmaine?
Yeah.
Wait, Charmaine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming out on such short notice and agreeing to be here. We really appreciate it. And just for the record, I think you do a great job. And so thank you. And I hope this year you're making a list of all the equipment and funding you need for the next budget season, because I'm sure you and the fire department and other emergency ops are going to be at the top of the list for the mayor and the city council. So please be sure to ask for what you need. I have several questions, but some of these you can just respond in email. And I thank you for giving this CERT detail. That actually came from a member in the public who said we could do more for CERT, and apparently they are correct. So let us know how we can help with that. I actually am old enough to remember when sirens actually had different tones. It wasn't actually that long ago that it switched. I'm wondering, as somebody who lives in Palisades, less than a mile from a siren, I cannot hear the siren at all. Do you use Nixle or emergency warning system when the sirens are alerted, like for just say for tests, so that we know they're being tested?
Okay, so the question is about, do we alert the public through other means if there's a test of the siren system? And the answer is yes, we do. So we have, you mentioned Nixle. So we used to have a system called Nixle. Now it's called H&L Info. So again, the information for that is on the flyer that I brought tonight. But it's a public notification app that we use. Has both push alerts, it's a mobile app, as well as text message. And we also send out emails as well. And so for the monthly test, the state usually sends out a press release indicating that there's a test happening. Also, if there's an out of cycle testing, they're doing installation and maintenance or something and they need a test, they'll usually issue a press release. And so you bring up an interesting point about the siren system and the audibility of one. So because of the, again, it's always a finite resource of money. So the state has prioritized the tsunami evacuation zones for the installations, tsunami sirens. I'm sorry, it's a tsunami siren. These are the all hazard sirens. And I actually looked up where the sirens were in this zip code. So we have one that's supposed to be at Palisades Elementary that's out of commission. That's kind of the highest one up, right? And Pearl City High School, Pearl City District Park, and there's one down by Kamehameha Highway, Waimano Home Road, just down the hill from here. So those are the areas in which the sirens are in the community. But we have estimated audible ranges for each of these sirens depending on the models. But it really depends on the environmental conditions, how windy it might be, if there's something else going on that is kind of blocking out the sound. So there are limitations in terms of where these are located and how audible they're going to be. Ultimately, at this point, it's a decision by the state legislature to allocate additional funds, and to the extent that the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency can implement these projects. Sorry, that was kind of went beyond what you had asked. You had asked about notification systems.
Yeah, I asked about testing, but really I'm asking about just alerts. And I know that you guys are looking at alerts and when to use the sirens and all that. I have a question actually about, you have a civilian board advisory commission of some sort?
We do, yeah. We have a Citizens Advisory Commission on Emergency Management, so it meets every other month.
Okay, so what are they doing? I mean, because they have this unique duties in the charter and all that kind of stuff. And I've actually never heard really, I mean, I know you did a report like 7 or 5 years ago, but I mean, I've never heard of them having a meeting. They don't do any outreach. Is there something that they should be doing that we can help them to do? Or what is it that they're doing? They're supposed to be the civilian, part that might be the ones who say, hey, Palisades doesn't have a route, or there's no sirens that we can hear. They're supposed to be a civilian element, right? For you guys to help be your ears, like in the community, because you can't be everywhere. Do we need to do something to support them so that they can have more an active role?
Yeah, so the Citizens Advisory Commission on Emergency Management, their role is to advise the Department of Emergency Management, the mayor, and the city council on emergency management matters. And right now, the membership composition, actually, trying to think of the members. We have representation from the visitor industry, from the finance sector, former military. So we have a kind of a wide variety of backgrounds and expertise represented on this commission. So they do have a bi-monthly public meeting that anybody is welcome to attend. And they're actually held over, we do have the online option available. So it is a forum in which not only the commission members can provide recommendation to the department and to the mayor and to the council, but also the public can also voice their concerns as well. So that's potentially a forum. But their role is an advisory commission. So a little bit different from, say, like the police commission and the fire commission, where they have kind of oversight of an appointment authority of the chiefs. Ours is purely an advisory commission. So to the extent that you have any input into the commission, the public is welcome to make those at any of the meetings that we have.
All right. Okay, board members, any other questions? Rodney?
When we talk about the emergency sirens, can you folks isolate the activation of these sirens? In other words, if you got there's something going on down in Waianae, other district, and just make it ring on.
Yeah, very good question. So sorry I didn't explain that earlier. So some of the emergencies that I talked about, like tsunamis and hurricanes, those are like island-wide. So we would activate them island-wide. Also during the monthly test, these are activated island-wide, actually statewide, simultaneously. We do have the ability to activate specific sirens. So instances like, if it's a fire in a specific community, then we would activate the sirens in the affected community and potentially the immediate surrounding areas and not alert the entire.
Yeah.
So my question is, and this is probably getting into the Star Wars type of deal, but is there any way you folks can get access to a satellite pickup feed? And this basically has to do with what went on with Mount line. Pretty much basically at the time, Mayor Bisson was giving his public address, he really didn't have no idea what was going on down in Maui. So, it was like a matter of minutes before, it just lit up like a torch, basically with fire blown across. So what I'm asking, he can't see it. Is there a way that you guys could get access to a satellite feed where you could actually, like I said, it's like the Star Wars thing, where you're watching NCIS or something like making in another country. But in terms of what happened over there, I think something like that, or if you could get assistance from the federal government, that would have helped out. Because by the time you guys get the reports in the field, he's already lit. So something
Yeah.
like that.
If I understood correctly, you're asking if we have access to some kind of real-time satellite imagery of what's going on out in the community. We can look into that. And I think like the most reliable source we have right now is like the first responders out in the field. The critical factor is ensuring that they have the continuity of communication back to their dispatch center. And so it really has to do with the resilience of the communication system and the radio system that we use to make sure we can get real-time information, guys that are on the ground. Now, there are some remote sensing capabilities. I'm not as well versed in this, but I know that the Department of Land and Natural Resources, their Division of Wildlife and Forestry, they have access to some of the real-time monitoring capabilities, but I would suspect that we would need some additional investments into those to make them robust enough that they have more close to island-wide coverage.
I guess that would be almost kind of like along the same line, like the traffic cams, where they can see what's going on with traffic. But yeah, as far as, picking it up, I'm sensitive moment. And then, if I hear, or I call back, this is what's going on. You know what? I want to see what's going on. So then you can make a positive assessment.
That's a very important question. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is the Mayor Blangiardi did actually order a comprehensive review of the fire risk in our community. And one of the things that we're doing, we're kind of creating a running list of things that we need to look into and invest in through. And so the early detection and warning for fires is one of those items. So definitely appreciate that comment from you.
So Rodney, you and I, the work is take it for action, some homework, because in desolate areas of mainland, they need to have some type of remote communications, and there is satellite capability for those kind of things. We just got to do the homework, figure out, and then the other thing is, I'm real concerned about. We're still in dark ages with these tones. The Navy has the verbal active shooter, and when it comes in, it is loud. It goes right through walls of buildings. That system works very well, and I really think you need to have that audio capability. And here's the other thing: is when the last time anybody did a hearability test for Pacific Palisades, we could determine where those null areas are and figure out, can we mitigate it? So that's another thing, Rodney. Because you're going to be a public safety guy pretty soon. So, but we're going to have to cut it off here. We've been on this. Any other questions from the board? Okay, Charmaine, go ahead.
I would like to make sure that the presentation and all of the questions are reflected in the minutes for our record. Thank you.
Thank you, Charmaine. Director, thank you so much for taking your time first. Yep. I'm sorry, didn't see you down there. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, I live in the lowest part of Palisades, and I hear the test regularly, but I wonder how long the siren at Palisades Elementary will be now.
I'll have to get back to you.
I mean,
Yeah, and then our data is showing that it's inoperable. In other words, it's not a maintenance issue. Like some of these have maintenance issues, got to replace the battery or something like that. This will be a capital improvement type project from the state.
Can you talk into the mic?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I was just saying the higher you are up in Pacific Palisades, even though the one at Palisades Elementary, which is actually low lying. Palisades Elementary is a low lying location. It's not elevated. But you can hear the siren across the valley from Jose High School.
One more. Is there a check like at the end of the month or the beginning of the month where you guys have like an idiot like you say, yeah, this bug is working, this siren is working, or this siren is not working? Or can you guys see that on you guys, board?
So there is some remote sensing capabilities on this system, but the best way is to actually go out and sometimes the system doesn't tell the full story. So we do have, going back to Charmaine's earlier question about notification before a test happens. In our message out to the public, we actually provide a link for the public to report siren outages. And what we've done recently on that page is to also add a map of the siren locations and their status, the most recent data that we have on them from the state, so that the public can look at them. Okay, this one's been out of service. I didn't hear it, so either report it. We already know about the outage, or if there's a siren that looks like it's supposed to be working, but you don't hear it go off, then please do report that on our page. Just because of there's like 180 something sirens on the island. We can't be all of them. We do have our volunteer for monitoring during the monthly test, but if the public can assist in reporting outages, that would be very helpful for us.
Well, Director, thank you for your time. We do have an action item to come out of this because we want that siren back up and running as soon as possible. And if all it is a gecko that shorted it out, which is usually for outdoor electronic surveillance equipment, 9 out of 10 times, that's the problem I got all the time for the military. It's a gecko taking out my equipment. So somebody needs to go up there, just check it out. Maybe it's something very simple. But anyway, thank you so much. We're going to get up moving on our agenda, and I'll be in contact with you, and we'll have that search get together. Bring it also.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, board members, if there are no objections, I want to get back to the community concerns because we have one gentleman that just showed up, Mr. Mike Awal. He had a concern he wanted to bring up. He actually flew out from the mainland to bring up that concern. Go ahead up to the mic, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes for this.
Thank you, Chairman, and the rest of the board members here. My name is Mike Ewall, and I'm the founder and director of a national group called Energy Justice Network, and now on the organization starting called Beyond Burning. And I've been involved since I was in high school in 1990, actually, and they tried to build an incinerator in my hometown. Is this okay? Should I make it? Totally. That's silent. Awesome. Thank you so much. So I've been working with communities around the country around these issues of waste and so-called waste to energy, aka trash incinerators, and the hazards that they cause to communities. I'm very familiar because I live in the cluster of the biggest cluster of them in the country in Philadelphia, is where I'm from, and we're surrounded by 5 of them, including one that's the biggest in the nation. But the one here in Oahu is the 3rd biggest in the nation and carries some of the same attributes as one of the ones near me, in that it's missing for two of the 3 burners are missing half of the pollution control devices that most incinerators have. The pollution control device that reduces the pollutants that trigger asthma attacks, nitrogen oxides, and the one that reduces the pollutants that are the most toxic, like dioxins and mercury. They're just missing those controls altogether. And that's a concern in terms of the health and environment of folks in this community and just globally even. Now, having studied this for as long as I have, I've been consulting with local governments, really diving into the research for many years on this. We've documented that it's worse than even going straight to a landfill with the trash. As much as we don't like landfills, landfills are a problem, and they're specifically a problem on this island. We know that they're made worse when you put ash in them after you put 70% of that tonnage into the air in the form of air pollution. We also know and have experienced in other communities that when they have the kind of contracts like they have here, where they have clauses that are called put or pay clauses. In other words, you promise a certain amount of trash, or you pay anyway if you don't have enough trash to give them. That's been a problem here, where there's not been enough trash to feed this 3,000 ton per day machine. And so they've had to pay essentially a penalty, and essentially it also competes with doing the right thing. So if they want to reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost, well, they can't do that without having to pay once to do the right thing and then pay again to not use the incinerator as much. So it really harms doing the right thing. So one of the concerns that I have, just having studied this and worked with folks here in Hawaii on this issue, is that two of the three burners you have, they're 33 years old. The average age of the now, I think we're up to 50 incinerators that closed since 2000. Two more just closed this year. Their average age at closure was 24 years old. And yet two of these burners are 33, and rarely do they make it to their 40th birthday. So we're looking at the reality that 2/3 of this machine that right now you don't have enough waste to feed it will be closing most likely in the next 5 to 10 years. And then you'll have the opposite problem of not enough place to put your trash. So I think it's not necessary that we start now and talk about planning for that outcome, planning for all the what they call zero waste measures of reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, but also holding this industry accountable. And there are a couple groups that Melody's and some of them is that I've been working with in the past year that are new organizations since I was last brought in a little over a year ago. One of them is called Kua Na'aina, and the other is the Clean Power Task Force. And they've been meeting weekly since last year to advance policies in the state to remove you can almost consider them subsidies, but there's a renewable energy mandate in the state that says 100% of the state's electricity has to be renewable by, I think it's 2045. And burning trash and burning trees qualifies as renewable energy. So there's a disincentive to build as much wind and solar as you would otherwise have because they're counting this energy as renewable, even though it's dirtier than the coal power plant that they shut down in the past year that was sitting nearby in the industrial park. So one of the pieces of policy that we're trying to move forward is that to clean up this renewable energy mandate. But we're also now working on one that is a law I helped get passed in Oregon recently that requires that these facilities run by the same company as they have in Oregon, Covanta as well, has to use real-time monitoring for toxic chemicals because they really don't know what's coming out day to day, except for 3 chemicals they monitor on a continuous basis, the rest not at all. They test once a year usually, so I see them out time. But I just wanted to plant seeds of this information and let you know that we'd love to have your support on some of these state policies that these organizations will be moving forward. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
Well, Mike, thank you for that concern. It is very important to I think most residents, because we have a trade wind majority of the time. We don't see those effects of the pollution. But I can tell you in December, there's a certain time of the year, every year, I call the Department of Health. We get a cone of wind, and that wind brings it right up the Waiau Ridge. I have asthma. I actually have to shut my windows because the sulfur smell is so bad. And I've tried to get the Department of Health out to come out during that time to do measurements of the pollution. And of course, the timing's wrong. Wind changes the next day and it's over. But anyway, board members, any questions for Mike?
Mike, I'm assuming it's H Power that you're referring to.
Yes.
And what is the name or location of where these 3 Oahu plants are?
The 3 units at H Power, they're all in the same complex. 2 are part of the same building, then the third one is a newer one, so basically right adjacent to it. It's on Campo Industrial Park.
Board members, any questions? Virgil?
Actually, yeah, I have one question.
Charmaine?
Are you giving a public presentation? I have 2 questions. Public presentation somewhere that if people wanted more information, they should attend. Is it a public presentation?
Yes, there are actually a series of public presentations that I've been asked to do between now and next Tuesday. So I think, Melody, do you want to say anything about them? Or I just compiled a list of them, so maybe if you want to follow up, I can email that list to anyone. You can circulate it.
Yeah, if you could get that back to us and I'll circulate the board, but if you want to give something verbal real quick, we do have to move on.
Great, thank you very much. Just really quick, I'm Melody Aduva with the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party. And we have one tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And this is open to the public. It is at the Hawaii State Capitol. It's at its auditorium. So 10 o'clock until 11:30, we're going to have 2 speakers, Dan Halpern, who's also a climate change attorney, as well as Mike Ewald. Okay, so we have that one on Tuesday. And then on Saturday, because there's a lot of neighborhood boards on this side of the island that are unable to squeeze in. And thank you, Chair, for squeezing us in some talk on this issue. So we are going to be at the Waianae host Comprehensive Health Center, Medical Center, and this is going to be on Saturday, September 30th, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then thereafter, on Monday, we have also a speaking engagement at Church of the Crossroads, and this is from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock as well. So I hope you all can join. There will be a Zoom link as well, and we will get all that information to you.
Okay, yeah, just email me and I'll push it out to the board members.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you
very
so
much for coming out. Okay, moving on, we're going to get back to board business. And I believe we're going to streamline through some of this stuff. And board, and to my vice chair and the board, thank you. In my absence last month, you went ahead and approved the committees that the Pearl City Neighborhood Board will support over the next term. We're going to have Legislative and Capital Improvements Committee. And of course, I thank you all for jumping in there and volunteering. Right now, Charmaine Duran has volunteered to take the chair for the Legislative and Capital Improvements Committee, the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. Thank you, Brendan Lee. You also volunteered for that. Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee, Rodney, you also volunteered for that. I have no one for the Traffic and Transportation Committee. At this time, I ask, does anybody like to volunteer for that committee to be a chair? Okay. If nobody takes that, I will go ahead and take it. I would rather not as chair, but I'll go ahead and take it. It's a very important committee. And normally we have members of the public be a part of that committee. And of course, the requirements according to the neighborhood plan, what I ask with the board members, if you do bring in people from the community, we have to have that approved through the board. The Health Education Welfare Committee, Dan, thank you so much for volunteering for that. Parks and Recreation Committee, and also the Recognition of Achievers Committee. Tony, thank you for taking that particular committee. And then the last two here, this is for the city, the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee. I'm volunteering for that with Charmaine. She's been backing me up through the whole period where I came back to work. Now that I'm retiring, I'll be able to make all the meetings now, and that's important to go right into Traffic and Transportation Committee. And then for the Pearl Harbor Restoration Advisory Board, when they kick those meetings off again, I'm sure that's going to happen again. And Guy, you've always been instrumental for that committee. So if there are no objections from the board, those will be our standing committees with chairs. I ask you for the next meeting, come back with your members and bring that to the board, who's going to be members of your committee. And then we'll continue to move forward and start working some tough community issues. So no objections on that. So last item on board business, Charmaine, would you like to talk about your proposal for recognition for the Pearl City Achievers?
Okay, I would like to maybe in November or December. I'm still waiting for some information from them. They're giving a little bio, is to recognize the lifeguards at Manana Pool. And I also had a name for Waiau Park, but I'm still working on getting that together. I think they do a fabulous job and represent the city really tremendously.
Okay, Charmaine, if you could work with Tony, provide those names, and Tony, if you could go ahead and draft up the verbiage to go with the recognition. So board members, if there are no objections, we're going to move forward. And based on the names that provided from Charmaine and Tony, we'll recognize those lifeguards and Parks Rec individuals at the next board meeting. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing, hearing none, we'll move forward on that. All right, jumping into representative monthly reports, Mayor Rick Langiardi's representative, Director Gene Albano, thank you for taking time for us.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Senator Elefante. Good evening as well. So I have some highlights from the mayor's newsletter. He did have a message regarding the devastating wildfires that destroyed Lahaina. More information there in the newsletter. There's a new lifeguard tower at Kahi Point, Electric Beach, which was installed August 3rd. It's the first in 11 years that expands the total to 42 towers throughout the island. Tower was immediately staffed, and there were 2 rescues 2 hours later. Read about our new liquor commissioner, Sal Tetilos. He has years of experience from Utah. You can also read about the mayor and the administration and the decades-old promise to develop the historic Corona Village in Napa. It was long overdue. Also wanted to mention that the city and county of Honolulu, again, was one of the best places to work in Hawaii, in the Forums of Magazine. Lastly, we wanted to congratulate Mary Lewis, who retired from Blaisdell, for her long standing service. Excuse me. The Department of Budget and Fiscal Services wanted to let homeowners know about real property tax credit program, in which it increased the limit from 60,000 to 80,000. And then also a Bill 40 CD1 FD1, which recently signed by Mayor, increasing the home exemption for owners under 65 from 100,000 to 120, and owners 65 years and older from 140,000 to 160. Bishop would follow up with some questions that were brought up in the last neighborhood report, specifically Member Smith and Member Wong with regards to the bus routes. The new bus routes. Pearl City High School is sited in an isolated area at the top of Waimata Home Road, out of the way of adjacent residential with limited connectivity to the city. The current bus routes alignment provides the most appropriate public transit access for the Pearl City School. Pearl City Cultural Center segment not be reinstated, but service from the eliminated segment was redistributed through the 3 routes by expanding service to operate on weekends, access to Olive Street, connect Skyline, Omilani, and Manan. Overall, the Pearl City's circular routes are functioning well, and ridership continues to grow as the community becomes more familiar about seeing the station. For information, DOE school bus service was eliminated, and so there is an additional bus that was allocated to accommodate the heavy after school. Route 541 was established to connect to the Skyline Forwards station and extend bus service to the upper section of Ka'akumanu Street because of its densely populated area, with potential transit ridership, unlike Waimana. There was another question regarding faded sidewalks along Waimana Home Road. The department did look at it and are making scheduling to meet payment any good weather condition. Painting will be done likely at night to avoid heavy traffic. So that's very important.
So Director, thank you so much. And Rodney, thanks for bringing up those points, because now we got city action, get those crosswalks fixed. Okay, board members, any questions for Gene? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Yes, I think you can do better on bus service to Pearl City High School. Perhaps you don't go all the way, but if the shuttles and the 54 make a little less than a quarter mile jog up to Momilani Elementary and kind of the back door to Pearl City High School, it would. I've driven in the car, so It's a little less than a quarter mile, and it's, the round trip time would be approximately 3 minutes, allowing, time for the bus to stop. So, and for example, like football games and whatever, there is demand for bus service in that area. That's my view of it.
So there is one route that goes. I know. Not- They're asking it to be extended further.
Well, I think everything, the 54 and the 531 and 532 could make a little jog up there, maybe not go all the way to the Performing Arts Center, but it would get students and others right to that back entrance road to Pearl City High School. It would be better improvement there. And also there's a Department of Education office up there. I don't know how many people work there, and then there's that state hospital up there. So I think small adjustment would be better than the present level of service. I noticed a lot of people waiting for the bus after the football game last weekend. So anyway, that's my view.
Director
Thank you.
Abano,
Thank you.
I'll bring that up further.
do you want
With
something
the-
official from the Pearl City Neighborhood Board? Do you want an official letter from the Pearl City Neighborhood Board requesting
That would
that
be helpful if you
Dan?
would like to see.
to work it? Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions?
I have a,
Go ahead, Rodney.
Mhm.
So what are actually the ridership numbers for those three routes?
I would have to go find out if you'd like specific metrics.
But it would help because, I mean, I go to work, Cameron Dumpster Park, that's the rail station. You only have the bus driver on the bus. You know,
You talking the bus or the hard station?
no,
hard
the bus, just the bus driver. That's it. Nobody else. So I really would like to see ridership.
Anecdotally, I will say that during the morning on my ride along Waimano Home Road, I do see a lot of students
Yeah.
at bus stations.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The investment was made by the Department of Education to buy these Holo passes. So if we cannot use them, it's a waste of money. We don't give them the tools to use these passes. And the tools would be another plus five.
Well, they're using it. We're asking for us to make it more accessible.
Yeah,
to
exactly. Yeah.
And
I mean,
take that under
yeah.
advisement.
It's a
I went-
win-win.
I went there the other day and traffic was back. I mean, all the way down to my, that's how long that line is. And you get parents dropping off at Momi Line Elementary and Pearl City High School. So, and I wasn't gonna say nothing. It's been like 3 months and we still did not push. So, it's like beating a dead horse. Like, we ain't gonna get no push, then no sense we saying.
Traffic studies take time. And so we do have to see how the metrics come out in order to adjust. So this is only the first year of ridership to the various schools being mentioned. And
Right.
while we get additional metrics, I believe something collaboratively where you're gonna ask for some hard metrics where we then can make some adjustments.
I mean, give us some number. I mean, it's like any other business. You gotta be profitable. So if I'm just wasting gas to,
Public transportation is not meant to.
well,
Anybody, I'm sorry.
somebody
That's-
still
that's the
gotta pay the
reality.
bill, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
right.
So
Okay.
if I just wasting gas for a bus driver and paying him his hourly salary just to, transport shadows, it isn't really worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
So,
Thank you.
It's, I would say something else. But
Okay, Rodney, good. All right, Director Thank you so much. for
Thank you,
making time
everyone.
for us.
Well,
Have a good evening. Oh,
Chair.
is there one? I'm sorry, there's
Yep.
one.
One more,
virtually
one
as
more
well.
question.
Yeah.
One more question. Could you help us to get an update on the new Pearl City Fire Station? It's been over a year and we haven't really found out where the project is. And really quickly, in like 1 minute, I know the mayor announced that he's doing some kind of wildfire study or something of that sort. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And
This
who's
is the
in charge of
response
that?
to- I'm not sure exactly, but I believe it's Heroes collaboration with the departments.
Okay, if somebody could email us, because we are getting a lot of community concerns about evacuation routes and so forth. And if we know where to best channel those, it would be useful, especially for the public, so they don't get frustrated. I think I've got several emails. I know the chair has. I know we're all getting it. So it would be useful for them to participate in a process, maybe.
I would not mind sending those emails to Gina Albano at honolulu.gov.
We're getting a lot of social media on the Nextdoor website.
No,
Okay, all right, we got to move on. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Record,
good
thank you
evening.
so much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on. And we've got Councilmember Val Okimoto waiting very patiently. And Val, thank you so much for making time for us, because I know you got a big day tomorrow with the team.
Yep. Good evening. Good evening, Chair, members of the board, and members of the community. Thank you for having me on virtually. You should have received my written report. For those of you who maybe are virtually, will hopefully the chair can forward that to you if you don't have it in front of you. But I will just kind of go off of that a little bit, but also answer some of the, just to kind of tag onto some of the things that were discussed this evening. Just to let you know that in the Public Safety Committee, where I'm currently the chair, we plan to hear the resolution for the newest nominee placed before us. I think her name is Leslie Hubbard, for the Emergency Management Commission. So we plan to hear her in my committee prior to being sent back to the full council. And we feel that's best practice to allow the public as well as the council to meet and ask questions to any nominees, especially in light of what's happening with the Emergency Management Commission. We are working with DTS on getting the pedestrian bridge to Pearl Highlands Station. We've met with them, my team and I've met with them and put the request in, and we'll follow up with the board as we move forward. Just to let you know, like Chair Rivera mentioned, tomorrow evening we have a town hall combined with the state legislature, the House and the Senate, and Councilmember Cordero and I plan to be there. That's scheduled at 6:30 p.m. at Pearl Ridge Elementary School. So if you are free and are able to join us, please do so. We do have our full council meeting coming up next Wednesday, which is October 4th, 10 a.m. And just if you could, I'll probably see you guys before this, but we do have a bike path cleanup on the 28th of October. If you would like to come help my office and I, please contact me and we will let you know of more details. And just to mention, board member Duran, she mentioned the HFD Pearl City Station. That's something that's, I've been bugging them too, Charmaine, don't worry. I always ask for follow-ups from Chief Howell, and they've informed me that they're still working on dealing with the church. So they're trying to square away the land with the church. But I promise you that I really have been pushing for this, because I know through my site visit that they really are in need of having a new station. So thank you for following up. That's what I get. And every time I see him, I ask him, how's the Pearl City Fire Station going? I know that the community could really benefit from that. Some things that were in the newsletter, Trevor Ray and some of us were able to visit the Sunset Memorial Cemetery. That was enlightening. We do have a bit ways to go in dealing with who owns the property, but my team and I are working on trying to take a step at least in the right direction of trying to get a cleanup, because what's been happening over the last months or so is there have been cleanups, but things have been piling up in the cemetery grounds. So my office is working on that in accordance, I think, with Representative Takayama's office as well, to try and get city trucks to come and help us to clean out what's inside there. And we will continue working to address the issue of that. As far as bills, we did have full council about 3 weeks ago. So just some bills to know that I've been posting on my social media just to let you know what's moving forward. That's coming. Bill 46 is moving forward. That's the to prohibit flavored tobacco products. And some people ask me my take on that. I am completely not in support of addictive substances especially as it relates to our youth. But I've been voting with reservations just because I'm trying to find the balance on making sure that we respect our local businesses and not put anybody out of business and put people who are employed by these businesses out of work. So I've been advocating for balance as well as making sure that we go back to educating our keiki and having parents take a more active role in being involved in their kids' daily activities. Bill 20, which doesn't directly impact us, but it is more affecting the urban neighborhoods. Bill 20 addresses the parking in city and city zones. One area specifically was in, I think it's the Kalihi Valley. And I did have, we had back and forth on discussions on that. I voted with reservations in the end, mainly because I felt like it was really highly subsidized. My concern was that out of the $280 per permit that the program would require, we agreed on 150, but nearly half of it will be subsidized by the taxpayers. So I had concerns about that moving forward as we open it up to more areas. But I think we were able to move it from being an ordinance to a resolution. So that's something that was a good compromise. And if you have any other questions about things that were in my newsletter, please feel free to contact me or you can ask me now.
Okay, well, council member, I'd like to open it up the board for any questions they have. Thank you for all those updates. The Sunset Memorial Park Cemetery, I expect to have announcement for next cleanup. It'll either be the 21st of October, that week before the bike trail cleanup, or it'll be the week after that for November. But I'll be hosting a meeting to discuss that, and I'll definitely ask for your help, get the city to help us with a lot of that bulk material that's got to go out. Board members, Guy, I've got a question for you. Go ahead, Guy.
Yes, thank you very much for your report. I have a question in regards to the removal of that crosswalk on Nanakai and Waimana Home Road. About 4 years ago or so, when they talked about smart streets and so forth, that was one of the areas where they're going to remove that crosswalk. So are you familiar with that area?
I'm sorry, I'm keeping it down right now. So you said Nanakai and Waimana Home Road?
Right. So, where Moanalua Highway and Waimana Home Road crosses, right? So
Yes.
Nanakai is that half street right there.
Okay.
And there's a crosswalk. And so say for example, if you're coming down Waimana Home Road with the green light, let's see. The Mauka bound going up Waimana Home Road, cars are just lined up right there. So if somebody were to step out, they will get hit immediately because
Okay.
there the traffic speed limit is 35 miles an hour.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm not familiar with that specific road, but I will look into it and we can contact DTS and see. Like was mentioned before, it does take a while to do traffic studies, but I will find out what happened with that crosswalk and make sure that we address the safety concerns.
Yeah, I asked for the removal about four years ago.
You asked for the removal.
Yeah, 4 years ago,
Yeah, and
at least.
nothing has happened. So council member, I'm going to work with Guy and we're going to draft a letter from the Pearl City Neighborhood Board so that way you have a written requirement from us.
Okay.
We need to get that crosswalk removed. I 100% behind Guy.
Yeah, what's interesting to that, just to support this thing is that there are parked cars right at the base of that crossover, that bridge where the pedestrian bridge is.
Right.
So there are a lot of cars illegally parked there. And interestingly, they addressed that by putting up barriers, within I'd say about 4 months or so, 5 months, but they didn't remove the crosswalk. So
Okay.
putting up the barriers, is not going to really save lives, so to say, but removing that crosswalk will.
Guy, if you could quickly, I know that we're short on time, but what is the history of why 4 years ago this is brought up? Why was nothing done? I'm guessing there's a backstory.
No, I don't know why nothing was done actually. But it was, I
Okay.
knew it was part of Smart Streets, and that's why it was kind of brought to my attention that, oh yeah, that's a very good idea. But 4 years ago, let's see, honestly, there's a lot less traffic. I noticed that every 1 to 2 years, traffic kind of grows exponentially, like you notice it. And so, now I really notice it.
Okay. I have to look into it. Yeah. Do you?
Okay,
Okay.
we'll bring you the diagram photos
Yeah.
Okay.
and we'll get in a
Usually
letter and
people
then
are
you
asking
can
for
run with it.
crosswalks. So, who did you,
No,
Guy? Who did you ask? When you 4 years ago, so I could follow up on what the trail of what happened
well,
when
that
you
was
asked for the
during
general.
Councilman Elefante's reign, yeah. So,
Okay. Okay. I'll
Okay.
try to follow up
so-
and see the backstory. Maybe if Councilmember Elefante is on, he could.
nah,
Okay,
nah,
there's
nah,
any
nah.
other questions?
So,
Gotta move on.
Or Senator Elefante, sorry. Okay.
yeah,
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So, council member, thank you so much. No other questions from the board. We look forward to see you tomorrow.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on. I don't see Jeff Hickman. Are you online? Okay, how about Casey Abbey? Okay,
Casey's
Casey's not there. Casey's on. All right, Casey. Casey is so
Yes,
reliable.
yes, anyone.
Every board
Let
meeting
me
he attends.
show my screen here.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, getting my screen ready here.
You're up.
Okay. Okay, hope folks can see my screen here.
Okay, nothing on the screen yet. It's coming up
Oh, yeah.
now. There it is.
Okay, yeah, okay, good evening, Chair Beret, Pro City Neighborhood Board members, Casey Albert from the State DOT Highways Division. At last month's meeting, there was a concern about construction materials being stored and stockpiled near the Pearl Highlands Transit Center. Found out that the site is under HART's control and is being used by HART's maintenance contractor to store and stockpile our materials. From my understanding, Johnny Reed from HART will provide a response at a future meeting. At last month's meeting, a question was asked about vehicles being allowed to make a right turn on Red from Komomai Drive onto Waimana Home Road, while cars are making the left turn movement from Waimana Home Road onto Komomai Drive. Although this is a city roadway on state highways, if there's no sign saying no right turn on Red, you are allowed to make the right turn on Red. Areas with high pedestrian traffic like Ala Moana Boulevard at the entrance and exit of Ala Moana Beach Park, the state DOT has installed no right turn on Red signs. So in this case, you cannot make the right turn on Red. This is a pedestrian safety decision by our current administration. The subcontractor at Kelly Kai Inc. Completed the test piles with load testing and will start installing the micro piles next week for the Leeward Bikeway project. The construction of the two bridges are the only work remaining on the project with a tentative completion date of May 2024. These are pictures of the new bikeway that has been completed. In last month's meeting, a question was asked why HART did not design to allow U-turn movements between Kaumana Street and Lehua Avenue and Waimana Home Road intersection. HDOT engineers did remind the HART engineers about providing U-turn movements during the design phase, but the HART engineer determined there wasn't sufficient turning radius at those intersections for different sized vehicles. So they decided not to allow any U-turn movements because they were concerned about liability. Update on considering installing U-turn movements at the three potential intersections. At the September 12th IEA Neighborhood Board meeting, I reported that our traffic branch just completed the field investigation and analysis of the three intersections and will be recommending the following. They do not recommend allowing U-turns at Kaluamoi Street intersection, since the intersection is only 1/10 of a mile from the signalized Kahumana Street intersection that does allow U-turns. At the Hiko Power Plant entrance, which is about a half mile from Kahumana Street intersection, our administration has decided not to allow U-turns at this intersection because of an agreement with Hiko. At the entrance at Hale Mohalu, which is about 9/10 of a mile from Kahumana Street intersection, our traffic branch will recommend passenger cars only to be allowed to make U-turns, since most passenger vehicles turning radius is small enough for the car to make the U-turn within the width of the 3 through lanes going eastbound, which is approximately 36 feet. We decided not to allow vehicles larger than passenger cars to make the U-turn at Halimohalu because it is not signalized intersection. Larger vehicles that cannot make the U-turn in one smooth movement will be required to stop, reverse, and make a sharper left turn in order to complete the U-turn movement. This will require vehicles traveling eastbound to pay attention and be prepared to stop if they see a U-turning vehicle stopping, reversing to complete the making of the U-turn. This is a liability concern for the Highways Division. This is during one of my field investigations, I noticed that this huge concrete truck could not make the U-turn at Acacia Road intersection in one smooth motion, even with 3 true lanes on Kamehameha Highway westbound, which is also approximately 36 feet wide. So the truck was forced to stop traffic, reverse, and make a sharper left turn in order to complete the U-turn movement. This is an example where HART and HDOT allowed U-turn movements at the signalized intersection, even though the turning radius is not sufficient for all types of vehicles. But at a signalized intersection, traffic is either at a stop position or just starting to move when the light turns green. So this minimizes the chances of an accident. So in conclusion, I'm not sure if the Pro City Neighborhood Board will revise their joint ARIA and Pro City Neighborhood Board letter to our DOT director based on our traffic bans allowing U-turns for only passenger cars at Halimohalu. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Casey. I have to tell you, I'm extremely disappointed with those assessments and findings. Hundreds of cars every day are making U-turns at those locations. And it's because they don't want to burn a lot of gas, 1 mile to go down there and a mile to come back.
Yes.
And what I need to do is I need to figure out how many traffic accidents there have been with those hundreds of vehicles every day making U-turns at those 3 points. And that should counter those findings because, and I think it should be vehicles and small trucks. No big industrial truck should be making U-turns there. But we need to do this for our families and for the businesses that are there. So this is not an end of subject. We're going to continue to work with Diane Neighborhood Board, and we'll bring this up to your boss because we got to do what's right for our people and it's safe. So, but thank you, Casey. Appreciate all the time you got. Board members, any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Casey?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chair. Thank you for that, Casey. So we as taxpaying citizens, when can we expect either a tax refund or credit from a private company, HECO, for the use of our public lands and them having a say on how we can utilize our tax funded roads? So they're going to have a say on how the public uses the lands that we pay for. So are we going to get a tax credit from the city for that? Or are we going to get a credit from HECO for that?
I guess that's above my pay scale. So maybe you would have to work with our elected officials who can talk to our
Well, they're here
director about
listening,
that.
but I wanted that on the record to be heard that the city just said that they made a private agreement with a private company. HECO is a private company.
Again,
That they made an agreement with a private company for the use of public lands. So that's why I asked that question, because I wanted that on the record. Thanks, Casey.
Okay, any other questions?
Really
Charmaine?
quickly, I don't know what to say about the cement truck trying to make that U-turn, but that seems like a bad choice on his part. To just follow up on what Board Member Lee was saying, could we get a summarized version of what the agreement was with HECO so we understand if this was part of their permitting or what was, so that we know what to reference in our discussions, because it's kind of a generic statement and that could be an agreement anywhere and say anything. If we could just get either the reference to what agreement it is and where that agreement was done, and maybe when they built or did the road, or what it says at least, so we understand.
Sure, I can go follow up on that.
Thank you. And you always do such a good job. So thank you so much.
Casey, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, so we're going to move on. What are the other ones? We good? Okay, we'll get you next month. All right, Casey, thank you. Okay, moving on. Right now, I don't know if Senator Glenn Wakai's assistant is online. I don't see him online. So we're going to move on. We have Senator Brandon Elefante. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Chair Beret, Vice Chair Duran, and members of the Pro City Neighborhood Board and the public. I'm sorry I missed you last month, but I know Michael Grino from my staff, who's also online, was here. He has shared a link to my newsletter. Those of you that are here in person at Momilani, you do have a copy of my newsletter. Just want to highlight a few items for you. I know Michael last month talked about the judiciary nominees in the First Circuit, which is Oahu, that was advised in consent by the Senate. But I also want to highlight that Governor Green did release some funding. One in this area is the storm hardened Waimano base yard, installation of storm hardening measures for the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, which is just up the road here. We did get back our survey results. Thank you for those that have participated in our online survey from our newsletter. The top 3 concerns were homelessness, crime, and the economy. And then we also had a question to the people that were completing the survey. You know, what would they like to see if there were a budget surplus? And so some have put one-time individual tax relief, investment in infrastructure projects for our public schools, prioritize funds for qualify for federal matching funds, and the other is put into a rainy day fund for unforeseen future needs. So those are some of the top issues that did come up. I know Councilmember Okimoto did touch upon a special event that we're having tomorrow, which is our town hall. I'll defer to Rep. Chun as he's lead. He can share more details when he comes up for his report, as the House is the ones that are in charge with putting on that town hall. Just a couple of quick things. I know that some were brought up and I have been listening. First is to Board Member Guy Inouye. Yes, I was at the council during that time regarding that crosswalk at Manakai Street as well as Waimano Home Road. So Councilmember Okimoto, I don't know if you're still online or if your staff is online, where you could work with the city's Department of Transportation Services. The Complete Streets Division was the particular division that came up with that proposal for that area. It is also news to me in terms of Palisades not having a working siren. So I did talk to Director Toya on his way out. I'll be working with Rep. Takayama to see what we can do for funding in this next budget cycle as we go into session in mid-January when we start, to see what we can do for appropriate use for sirens in the Palisades community. And then I know that there was that response on that U-term. So interesting enough, Senator Wakai has the Makai side of Kamehameha Highway. I have the Malka side of Kamehameha Highway. We split Pro City in 3 ways with Senator Aquino, myself, and Senator Wakai. But one thing we could look into this coming session is look into a resolution regarding that U-turn issue on this session, knowing that it is a concern coming from the community. I'll stop at that right on their time and happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair and members.
Senator, thank you so much. And thank you for just jumping on that high priority. That means a lot to the community. And of course, all the other things that you're working as well. And whatever help you can give us on those U-turns, that's festered for too long. I haven't gone to see Ed Sniffen yet, to talk about it, but that's next. And I'm going to be retired Friday, so I got a lot of time. I'm coming to visit you too, your office, so we can work some stuff. But board members, what do we got for our senator for questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just reading down here. Governor Green signed key transportation safety legislation, including Senator yourself, from oversized vehicles driving slow in the left lane and high occupancy vehicle lanes. That one, I'm gonna have to disagree with. And the reason being is, I work in Campbell Industrial Park. So I go and we have no traffic going, Waianae Bound. But what I do see that in the last 10 years, that a lot of businesses have moved to the Campbell Industrial Park area. So what I like to say is, I call them triple lights. So when you see a vehicle with a triple light, 9 out of 10 times, that is a big oversized vehicle. And I've always said that if you keep the overweight vehicles, semis, garbage trucks, if you keep them in the mainstream of traffic, it's gonna hinder all of us. The reason being is because it takes longer for a heavy vehicle to get them moving. And then the gap between them and the car in front of them gets bigger. So I suggested one time, and every time I see it snipping on them, if we were to allow single lane in the zipper lane for the overweight vehicles or the oversized vehicles and make them stay in that left lane along with the high occupancy vehicles. Because I think at one point after White Kelly or after the merge, then it progresses into 2 lanes going downtown. Am I correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am pretty sure I've seen 2 lanes. So they could actually share the lane, which in fact would take the heavyweight vehicles or the semi-tractor trailers, you know, out of the mainstream of traffic and put them into a lane by themselves. And that way it could move. Of course, it would have to be monitored because, you know, some of these boys, they got some heavy foots on them. But to me, if you take them out of the mainstream, then the rest of everybody else will flow instead of creating gaps inside them. So that was one suggestion. Now, the other, what I'm noticing, and I'm sure you folks notice it too, as we build more in the west side of Oahu, traffic is coming more and more. It'll start from Waianae, Kapolei, Makakilo, the new subdivision, Wokili, and then Ever Beach Kunia, and then as it goes on to Mililani and the merge. So everything is getting, you know, it's getting more compact every year. But yet we don't do anything to mitigate this. My suggestion before, as I was saying, is that maybe that zipper lane needs to start being longer. In other words, we should start with a break in a wall down by the bend before Makakilo or the north-south road and start making that zipper lane be more extended, that we could get these people out of there. Because there is a backlog. When you get an accident out there, the thing is all the way past Campbell. So that's what, you know, I think we got to be more creative with that traffic deal. You know, just signing something saying that they cannot drive in the left lane. You know, in the mainland, it's done often. They know what. When over here, we got to educate, or we got to give, you know, we got to give some leeway. If we take the big trucks out of the mainstream of traffic, I think it's going to help a lot. But the other one that really puts a cry is that we have no zipper coming home to the west side. We're Mililani. And I think we got to address that. Because all these people who are going into the zipper lane into town, they got to. But we can, you know, take a look at that, see what Mr. Larry said. You know, it's sniffing. We're going to visit him too. You know, we got to start using our brains out there. You know.
So Rodney, again, for things to happen, we need to state the requirement, and we can submit an innovative, creative suggestion. Okay. So everything you just said for the last 10 minutes, you got to put down in writing.
If I may respond quickly, Board Member Wong, thank you for the feedback. You know, your concerns are noted. I appreciate your suggestions. Sounds like you're the right fit for Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. You have all these wonderful ideas, right? But just a couple of points on that. I know Hawaii is different than the mainland. For the 10,000 pounds or more semi-truck vehicles, it's only on Oahu, and it's only in times when there's not traffic. So if the trucks can keep up with speed, then they can still stay in other lanes other than the high occupancy vehicle lane. I know HDOT is working on seeing what they can do, especially on Nimitz Highway with all the backlog of getting into that harbor area. For I think it's Pesha, that company. That's why they're building the Kapalama Terminal Canal. And then to your point on the afternoon zipper heading westbound, you know, I think that is something that could be further looked at. as well as extending the zipper, further out west in the AM as commuters come to town or downtown area. The one entity that Chair Veray and Vice Chair Duran is a part of is the Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization. So they're usually charged with doing regional plannings and whatnot. So I'm sure, Chair Veray could somehow, get that points across. But I'll work with my fellow colleagues in Pro City to see what we can do to work with HDOT. I do sit on the Transportation Committee in the Senate. So I feel that, I can be a voice in terms of sharing some of the concerns that you raised here tonight. But we'll make a note of that and then we'll follow up as appropriate.
One more question.
Sure.
Okay. So after the Pro City on-ramp or the Kahuman on-ramp to the freeway, made those HOV lanes on the right-hand side and then the shoulder lane. So always kind of intrigued by the sign that says 6 to 7, whatever on the weekdays, except Saturdays and Sundays. So does that mean we can use that road on Saturdays and Sunday?
To my knowledge, whatever is posted on the sign, you're not able to use that only during that. Are you talking heading eastbound?
Yeah.
Heading Diamond Head bound on the right lane?
Exactly.
You're coming from Waipahu
Right.
all the
Pro
way
City,
to
yeah.
Porridge, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. It's only during that weekday hours, unless otherwise noted by the signage.
So what does except Saturday and Sunday?
Well, you wouldn't ride, you wouldn't be able to ride in that lane during
Yeah.
those days.
Because right over there, that's where the bulk of your near misses and accidents are caused. Because everybody's trying to come from 5 out and get into that, right lane so that they can get up Red Hill. There's a lane over there that you can use, and then there's still a buffer on the other side for cars that are stalled. So I cannot see why we cannot use them. I mean, it would make it a little bit easier for everybody.
So are you asking to open it up on Saturday and Sundays? Is that
Yeah,
is that
definitely.
what you want?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's common sense.
We could look into that. What could also help for that argument if the board wants to entertain a resolution
Mhm.
to support that could help with your proposal.
Yeah, I mean,
Rodney, hold that
anybody,
thought.
Anybody goes over there at 10 o'clock, you're gonna see the red lights coming on. That's why anybody going Waikiki bound to the outside lanes, you stay in front of the inside lane. It's almost similar to that Waipahu off ramp. They're coming from 5 hours.
Sure.
Hey,
Thank you.
Rodney, better get moving. And you're definitely on the Traffic Transportation Committee. Okay, Brendan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming, Senator. So my question is kind of based off of what Rodney was saying. Not about opening that shoulder lane for Saturday, Sunday, and holidays, but that I'm sure you remember the tragic fatal accident that happened there last month. I firmly believe that accident is caused because of what Rodney was saying, how the traffic literally goes from 55 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour right before that lane opens up, before they exit onto the stadium. And it's because all the people in that right-hand lane, when the shoulder lane is not open in the right-hand lane, when that new lane opens up for that exit, they don't move over, they stay in that lane. So that lane there is empty. So now the rest of the traffic is trying to merge into that lane to take that exit or the Maunalua to the Maunalua freeway. Since you are on the traffic committee, is there something that the committee can look into a study? Because it's every single day. The traffic literally goes from 55 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. And it happens in a span of less than probably 100 feet. And that's what caused that accident. Yes, they said that other guy was speeding, but I think they estimated his speed at like 68 miles an hour, which is well over 55. But you and I both know that's not well above the average traffic flow on the H1 freeway. So he was going 68 miles an hour. Everybody came to a dead stop, went from 55 to 25, and he wasn't able to stop in time and rear-end those poor people, and they all died. So hopefully you hear this, and the Transportation Committee in the Senate can take a look at that, because it's a problem. It's a real problem for a freeway, an open freeway. This isn't I'm not talking about in rush hour traffic. I'm talking like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday when there isn't that much traffic, it literally goes from moving traffic at 55 miles an hour to, like Rodney said, red lights and down to 25 or less. And that's a real bad hazard.
So thank you, Board Member Lee, for sharing that. That's something we could look into, and maybe this session looking possibly to a resolution, but as a follow-up, I'll email Director Sniffen. Thank you.
And Brendan, let's get this in writing, okay? We'll state our requirement. Okay, all right. Any other questions for our senator? Hearing none. Senator, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will see you tomorrow. Okay, moving on, Senator Henry Aquino, he sent, his aide sent me his report. I'll send that to you, board members. I didn't have time to get it out this afternoon. Okay, and Representative Takayama is not available today, or nor his. Oh, there is Aquino's office? Because I was told nobody would be here. Okay, could you please come up and identify yourself? Senator Aquino? Can't hear you. Nathaniel? Can you hear us?
Aloha, Chair. Board members, can you hear me?
Okay, we got you now. We're going to turn up volume. Okay, provide your update, please.
Aloha, Chair, board members. My name is Nathaniel Issei, and I will be representing Senator Aquino this evening. I also stand by my report as well. Thank you.
Okay. Standing by the report. Thank you. That makes it easy for us. Board members, any questions? Okay, no questions. And thank you for staying on and listening to all the concerns that we have. Okay, moving on to Representative Takayama. There should be no one on. And we're up now with Representative Corey Chan. Welcome, Corey.
Evening, Board, Chair, Vice Chair, members, Corey Chan from the State House of Representatives. I passed out the flyer for the town hall tomorrow, so I won't, I think everyone's mentioned it already, so I won't rehash that. But I just wanted to give an update of what the House has been up to since the Lahaina fires. So the House of Representatives leadership created 6 working groups to look at just changes that could be made policy-wise coming for the recommendations for the next session. And there were 6 groups that were created. There's a environmental remediation group, food and water, jobs and economic development, schools, shelter and wildfire prevention. I was appointed to the shelter and wildfire prevention interim working groups. And basically right now we're just in the midst of fact finding. Obviously there's a lot of information that we don't know yet and we're starting to figure out. Just for example, with shelter, we do know that FEMA is actually being able to provide directions to get people into rental properties. We do know that there is a hard deadline that FEMA has of 18 months. Could be extended to 24, but basically once that 18-month or 24 period is up, the state will be on the hook. So we have that amount of time to figure out where to go from here. With wildfire prevention, it's such a broad topic. We did hear about sirens and possibly not just sirens, but actually upgrading the technology. So there's actually cameras attached to those sirens. Also looking at what Board Member Owang was talking about, not necessarily satellites, but just what could be used to get some kind of aerial images to just locate hotspots. The big challenge there is during red flag events. Well, also money, but in red flag events, so what happened in Lahaina with the 80-mile-per-hour winds, we were informed that just getting aircraft up in the air at that time, so even if you want to get a helicopter up to do a water drop, you just couldn't do it just because of the conditions. But trying to see what we can do with technology. And also, of course, land maintenance, right? So we have a lot of land that's in that state, so private landowners, and it's basically a remnant of the lands that have not been used for agricultural purposes and have been fallow. And this basically the loss of our native wetland and native species being overtaken by invasives that has become fuel. easily burning gases. So how do you address that? But as I see I'm running out of time, so I'll stop there and I'll take any questions that you may have.
Right, Corey, thank you so much. Okay, board members, any questions for our representative? Okay, Rodney?
You know, it was funny, because I read nobody reads the paper nowadays. Sunday paper. Gentleman down in Waianae Valley suffered the same problem. He had the fires in Waianae Valley. So what he did, he turned to the oldest remedy in time. He got himself some sheep, some goats, and he corralled them, and they started to eat the grass. So free labor, cut back on the stuff. So he takes it out and he corrals them in certain areas and he lets them feed on the grass. So, you know, and with the demise of sugar on the island of Maui, that's what happened. And the 2018 fire was the same thing. But instead of looking at new medicine, maybe we gotta look at old medicine. Give them a place, make a suggestion, because I think a gentleman in Hilo actually came to the rescue too. And there was an overgrown brush. He brought his goats over there and they just cleaned that place up. And if I'm not mistaken, in Mililani, where they had the solar panel put in over there on the ridge, they actually had goats, but they had to get away from the goats because the goats are jumping on the panels. So the fellow from Waianae bought in sheep, and it has been working for him. So we're looking for solutions. Gotta go back. Get the simple stuff instead of the high-tech stuff. You know what I mean? They'll do it for free. They'll do it for fee.
Yeah, that is one of the solutions. So yeah, you're talking about the Hawaii Agriculture Research Center. They have some property out in Mililani that they're actually doing agriculture underneath solar panels. And basically what they shared is it's also natural fire break because they're maintaining the land. Right? You have to keep the grass short, the panels covered up, and they do have the goats up there. Yeah.
Okay, board members, any other questions? Okay, hearing none. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Corey. Okay, moving on. Representative Trish LaChica could not be here tonight, but her aide is. And welcome. You can identify yourself for our record.
I'm Erin from Chica's office manager. She can't be here tonight. She's going to move to Colorado to attend a National Convention of State Legislatures event. She was recently invited to. So I'll be here on her behalf. We do have a few updates. I gave you all a newsletter. So Rep. Pacheco was selected to be part of PhilPro, which is a young Filipino leadership program, and he was able to visit the Philippines with a group to meet with representatives from government, business, tourism, and health industries to strengthen the ties between the Philippines and the United States. That was last month. As Representative Chun mentioned, the interim working groups. Rep. Pacheco is part of the Jobs in Business as well as Schools Working Group. The Jobs in Business Working Group is prioritizing the evaluation of the Maui unemployment rate and approaches to restart business activity, as well as impacts to tourism statewide. The Schools Working Group is evaluating strategies to get displaced students and staff to return to schools. Both working groups have about 4 weeks to prepare recommendations for appropriate legislative action. The final report will be delivered December 15th. When the draft recommendations are published, members of the public will have an opportunity to participate during public hearings and offer their own testimony in person and virtually. And then lastly, I know we talked about the bus services already. Representative Pacheco is happy to report that one of the bus routes was restored for the Coral Ridge students to attend Pearl City High School. It was restored August 28th.
Rep. Pacheco would like to really thank the community as well as the board's advocacy for this. We are still in communication with the Board of Education or Department of Education to discuss what other updates they can provide us since the governor's proclamation. The governor's August 17th emergency proclamation suspended the CDL requirements for school bus drivers, but this does end in October, I believe. So we are trying to communicate with them on what updates they can provide, but we haven't received any yet as of today. And that's all I have for you if you have any questions.
Great, concise update. We appreciate it, and we appreciate her continuing to keep Pearl City on her radar. So board members, any questions?
Yes, briefly.
Go ahead, Dan.
The representative perhaps could help appropriate a bus for Leeward Community College CDL program. So to facilitate the training of bus drivers. They have a CDL program, but they say they can't train people because they don't have a bus.
Thank you for mentioning that. We are also submitting a research report. So we're trying to see what other states have done or what's been done in this state in the past that worked and what didn't work, and where we can go forward with that. So I will definitely pass that message along.
Rodney?
So what route was restored? And where does that route actually go? And where does it start and where does it end?
I have actually like a visual map in my email. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. I can send it over to you. Yes, I can send it over to you after this meeting, if that's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, because it's really curious how you guys could get that route restored and we're still over here begging.
Yes, right. They have the most distance to cover. It's a lot farther away than here. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, we have been working with the Department of Education. It's been a slow-moving process with everything going on in Maui and their restoration of school services there as well. But I can get that question over to Representative and get back to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
Perfect, thank you all.
Okay. All right, moving on. Nestor Garcia is not here for Congressman Case, but we are going to move on to our other government agencies. We got Joint Base Pearl Harbor here with the dynamic duo Victor Flint and David Duna Hodge. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chair Verre. Aloha, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. In the effort of consuming some more time to keep Victor from talking, I'll kind of drag it out a little bit. Now I'm going to, long-term monitoring continues. It's been about nearly 18 months now. We keep saying over a year, but it's nearly been 18 months. The system's still working. All the new updates on safewaters.org on the Joint Base website. But this coming week, there's a defueling open house over at Ke'ehi, I hope I said that right, Ke'ehi Lagoon Park. And it's on October the 3rd, which is Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. It's a good opportunity to come down, see the senior leaders of Red Hill Joint Task Force and answer questions. That information monitoring, the long-term monitoring information booth will be there. It's also going to be at the Navy Exchange on the 28th on Thursday night, same time in the evening time. Not much new to report except for that the defueling, all the repacking is finished. Everything's holding up, everything's looking good. To start the defueling on 16 October, which I'm happy to say will go whether the government shuts down or not. The defueling operation will continue regardless of the funding situation. And with that, I'm going to shift over to some good news topics. Well, that was good news. This is better news. So we've got some cleanups coming up in response to the community concerns, especially along our fence line with brush fire, what's the word? Fire breaks. We've got some work coming up at Kapapapui, Point Park. Also down, we're going to clean up down in, this has nothing to do with Pearl City, but wanted to talk about it because it leads up to the big bike path cleanup in your backyard here on the 28th of October, which we work with city and county and the volunteers from all over the island. That's coming up on the 28th. The last thing I'll talk about before I turn it over to long-winded Victor here is that on October the 6th, there's going to be a homeless sweep down in Lehua. And I wanted to give you the news that the HPD and the Joint Base Security Forces are going to be working in league again on October the 6th to try to clean up that area of the bike path on both sides of Lehua. And that's all I can really tell you about that. There's not a lot of detail other than that. We're going to get out there and give some guys some shelter.
Okay, Duna, thank you so much. Are you guys planning on coming to the town hall meeting tomorrow where they talk about?
I would like to. I'm going to see if I can clear my calendar. We've got some other stuff coming up, and then I have the. I'll see if I can come over at least to stop by and shake some hands and catch what I can
There
catch.
might be some questions that pop up, you know, from the community.
Oh, that'd be
their
an
concerns or
awesome
whatever.
opportunity for us. It would be.
But thank you so much for what you guys are doing to help
Are you going
us.
to plug my boat on Friday?
I don't know yet.
Okay, I'll plug it. I'm going to steal his thunder. On the 28th, especially if the government shuts down on the 28th on Friday afternoon, Friday afternoon on the 29th, I have a boat going out to the Arizona Memorial. I have about 50 seats unspoken for. That might be the last opportunity to go to the memorial for a little while. And you can join a 98-year-old World War II quartermaster, also a veteran of the Korean War, go out there. I've got 50 seats if anybody would like to go. I'd love to have Pearl City out there.
Well, that's the day of my retirement. I'll be saluting that direction.
What a day you can celebrate on the white boat.
Okay, next.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Do you want me to continue or?
Go ahead,
Hang
Brandon.
on, Mr. Chair, I have a question real quick. So thank you for the coordination for the cleanup at Lehua on the 6th. In the future, if the coordination could be a little bit better, because if you're cleaning up on October 6th, doing that sweep, and then the bike cleanup is 3 weeks later on the 28th.
Brought up the very same point, Mr. Lee.
Okay, because they'll all be back 2 weeks. So if they could do the sweep maybe like a week before the bike cleanup, then it.
I actually called the security guys and said, hey, what are you doing the week before? Can you get out of the bike? Oh, we're doing it on the 6th. Thanks, appreciate that. So what we're going to do is try to get them to come back about a week before. That way we can coordinate it better.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got one more.
He just was saying that he spoke to the base already, and they said they're doing it on the 6th, and they're gonna try and do another quick sweep the week before the bike cleanup on the 28th. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I got a question for you. So with your cleanup and sweep, it's on the federal side,
No.
state side?
It's spread across. So Mr. Kyle Tokuda works for Stormwater for City and County, which is, I don't know what Stormwater, if they belong to Board and Water, if they belong to City and County, but I belong to Kyle twice a year for that cleanup. And
Okay.
we spread them all the way from Aiea Point all the way down to Waipahu High School. I can send you the flyer. I should have sent you the flyer in the report, but I will, Larry, and you can spread it. There's several, I think there's 8 or 9 different central points, gathering points, and then the worker bees go out in all directions. Not every bit of it is on the fence line, no, sir.
Yeah, because
It's
I
all
was
over the
just,
place.
I was just wondering if, every time you do a sweep of the homeless, you got to store their stuff. So if it was on the federal side, you
On our
won't
side,
have
we
to
don't.
store their
Yeah,
stuff.
On our side, we don't, yeah.
Okay, Victor.
I'll be quick. Navy is still helping out with the recovery on Maui, and we're coordinating with our state and federal partners. We just had a big firefighter, Uniki. That was on September 8th. Federal Fire Department graduated 26 Federal Fire Department personnel and 4 state crash rescue Fire Department personnel. And they went through a 26-week accredited program, so these guys are at the top of the food chain. Also, our August 23rd job fair at the Blaisdell, wow, plenty turned out. We were hiring on the spot, and we welcome all the folks that we did hire. Good luck to them. That's all I have. Mahalo.
Okay, and Victor, one more thing. You weren't here when Cruz Vina came up to address with all the traffic issues that may occur with the building of the new shipyard dry dock. So you can pass down to him what Cruz was
I
concerned
will,
about.
and I was going to try to catch Mr. Cruz earlier. So some of his worries about Halava Gate have already been kind of worked in different directions. Not all those construction things or those worries that we had for Halava, he and I talking, are going to go through Halava Gate. In fact, there's a lot of coming up from a different area. I don't know the details, but I'll try to get them to you so you can spread them. But there's a lot of talk of shuttle boats to keep them off the highways, shuttle boats to get the workers, and remote parking areas out on the west side somewhere. I know that we're staging some equipment. I took a call from a guy on the bike path over at just off of Renton Road over there, there's a large depot of things that are going to be moved by water to the dry dock. So some of Cruz's worries are not going to be felt as badly as we thought they were. Even a year ago, we thought this was going to be a nightmare. And
All
we
right.
think that they're doing a lot of mitigation for that.
All right, but gentlemen, thank you for your time. I'll see you at the cleanup.
Can I get one more alibi for
Yep.
me? It's a personal thing. I've got a retired chief petty officer that I met a couple weeks ago, and we're doing a prostate cancer awareness walk on September the 30th on Ford Island down at Battleship Row. I can send you information. It's the first ever in the state of Hawaii. It's the first ever on the island of Oahu. Prostate cancer numbers, 1 in 8. It rivals breast cancer in deaths every year.
Send it to me
I will.
ASAP, and I'll send it over to my command.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
gentlemen.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. And our chancellor could not be here tonight, Chancellor Penaloza. So we're moving on to association updates, and our own Tony Velasco will give us an update on the PTSA for Pearl City High School.
The only update I have on PTSA is that they had their homecoming last week, and Pearl City won their game. So they're 5-0. They have 3 more games to go. So root for.
Okay, how about Pearl City Community Association, Tony?
PCCA no updates. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, any other updates?
No updates, Chair.
Okay,
Sorry.
no treasurer's report. Okay, board members, you all received the copy of the August 22nd minutes in the mail out. Can I get a motion to move for the minutes? Okay, to approve?
Aye.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any changes, discussions? Okay, hearing none. If there are no objections? Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Charmaine?
Oh, yeah. Could we, it's not a correction, but we do need to somehow make all of our references to offices and representatives consistent. Sometimes we're using the office of, sometimes we're using Mr., sometimes maybe we need to make it in our kind of go all over the place. It would be nice to make those consistent in the future.
Okay, well, Charmaine, Logan's got that. And of course, he's got this next set of minutes, so he'll be thinking about that as he's putting them together. Okay, any other suggestions? If there are no objections, we'll consider approved. Are there any objections? Any abstentions? Okay, they're approved. Okay, moving on. Announcements. Anybody have any announcements they want to make? Okay, none? Okay. The next Pearl City Neighborhood Board meeting will be hybrid and in person, facilitated on WebEx here at the Momilani Community Center on Tuesday, October 24th. And the Pearl City Neighborhood Board meetings are broadcast on Focus Channel 49 and aired the second Saturday at 6 p.m. and the first and third Friday at 1 p.m. Other than that, if there are no other announcements, let's consider this a meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.